The year was 2847. Earth had spread across the stars. Humans lived on 1,000 different worlds. But the galaxy was not a safe place. Strange creatures lived in the darkness between stars. Monsters that killed without mercy. Beasts that could destroy entire cities in a single night. To fight these creatures, Earth created the Monster Suppression Division. It was the most dangerous job in the military. Hunters went out to face these beasts. Many of them never came back. Yuna never wanted to be a hunter. She was 23 years old, small and thin, with glasses that she pushed up her nose when she was nervous. She had studied languages for 6 years. She could speak 12 different alien tongues. She had trained to join the diplomatic corps, where she would help humans talk to peaceful alien races. On graduation day, all the new soldiers received their assignments on small tablets. Yuna stood with her friends, excited to see where she would go. Maybe she would work on a beautiful alien world. Maybe she would meet new species and learn their cultures. She looked at her tablet and felt her heart stop. Assignment: Monster Suppression Division, Sector 7, Station Omega. There had to be a mistake. This was wrong. This was very, very wrong. Yuna ran to the administration office. She filed a complaint. The officer behind the desk looked at her with tired eyes. "These things happen," he said. "Computer errors. You can file an appeal. How long will that take?" 6 months. Maybe more. Yuna filed 3 separate appeals. All of them disappeared into the slow machine of military paperwork. Before anyone could help her, she was already on a transport ship. The ship flew through dark space towards Station Omega, a massive floating fortress where the Monster Division made its home. Yuna sat alone in her cabin and tried not to cry. Through the window, she could see distant stars. Somewhere out there, monsters were waiting, and she was going to meet them. Station Omega was cold and gray. The walls were thick metal. The lights were harsh and white. Everything felt hard and unfriendly. Yuna walked through the corridors with her small bag of belongings, following signs toward the command center. The other soldiers she passed were different from her. They were big, muscular, covered in scars. They carried weapons like they were born with them. They looked at Yuna and saw nothing worth noticing. She was small. She was weak. She did not belong here. Captain Park Do-hyun was waiting in his office. He was a large man with gray hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He had been hunting monsters for 20 years. He had killed more creatures than anyone could count. He was a legend. He looked at Yuna's file and laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had seen something so strange that he could not believe it. "A translator?" He said. "They sent me a translator?" Yuna stood very straight, trying to look brave. "Sir, I believe there has been an error in my assignment. I was trained for the diplomatic corps. I have no combat experience beyond basic training. I should not be here." Captain Park put down her file. He rubbed his eyes with his thick fingers. "I can see that," he said. "Look, kid, I don't make the rules. Transfer requests take 6 months at minimum, sometimes longer. Until then, you are part of my division. You follow my orders. You do what I say. But sir, I cannot fight monsters. I do not know how." "Then learn, or stay out of the way." He stood up and walked to his window. Outside, Yuna could see the stars and the black emptiness of space. This division has the highest death rate in the entire military. 1 in 3 hunters dies in their first year. The creatures we fight are not like anything you have ever seen. They are fast. They are strong. They are hungry. Yuna felt cold fear running through her body. Then why does anyone volunteer for this? Because someone has to. He turned to look at her. His eyes were hard but not unkind. Because if we do not stop these things, they will eat their way through every human colony in the galaxy. We are the wall between humanity and extinction. We are the only thing keeping people safe. He walked back to his desk and sat down heavily. I do not expect anything from you. Stay in the background. Do paperwork. Translate alien signals. Try not to die. When your transfer comes through, you can go back to your nice, safe, diplomatic job. Until then, welcome to Monster Division. That night, Yuna lay in her small bunk in the soldiers' quarters. The bed was hard. The blanket was thin. She could hear other soldiers talking and laughing in nearby rooms. They sounded confident. They sounded brave. Yuna was neither of those things. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep. But sleep would not come. She kept thinking about monsters. Creatures with too many teeth. Beasts with too many eyes. Things that lived in darkness and fed on human flesh. Then she heard it. A sound from far below. A howl that echoed through the metal walls of the station. It was not human. It was not animal. It was something else entirely. Something that should not exist. The howl went on and on. It seemed to shake the very bones of the station. Other soldiers did not even seem to notice. They had heard this sound 1,000 times before, but Yuna heard it for the first time. And in that sound, she heard her own death calling to her dot. She pulled the thin blanket over her head like a child hiding from the dark. Tears ran down her face. She was alone. She was afraid. She was trapped in a place where nightmares were real. 6 months. She just had to survive 6 months. Then she could leave this terrible place and never come back. She would return to Earth. She would work a nice, safe job. She would never think about monsters again. 6 months was not so long. She could do it. She just had to stay quiet. Stay small. Stay invisible. She did not know it then, but those 6 months would change everything. The girl who wanted to hide would become the hunter who made monsters fear. The translator who could not fight would become the deadliest weapon. 3 weeks passed on Station Omega. Yuna learned to survive by becoming invisible. She woke up early. She went to her small office. She worked on translating alien signals and organizing reports. She ate alone in the corner of the cafeteria. She spoke to no one unless she had to. The hunters ignored her. To them, she was just a mistake. A piece of paper that had ended up in the wrong folder. She was not a real soldier. She was not worth their time. Yuna was fine with that. She did not want their attention. She just wanted to survive until her transfer came through. Every day, she checked her messages, hoping to see news about her appeal. Every day, there was nothing. At night, she read files about the creatures the division had fought. She told herself it was just curiosity. But deep down, she knew she was trying to understand the things that scared her. If she knew what they were, maybe they would be less frightening. She read about creatures that could fly through space without ships. Beasts that could survive in fire or ice. Monsters that could change their shape to look like humans. The galaxy was full of terrible things, and the Monster Division had fought them all. Then, on the 22nd day, everything changed. The alarm started screaming at 3 in the morning. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Soldiers ran through the halls, grabbing weapons and shouting orders. Yuna stumbled out of her room, confused and afraid. She grabbed a passing soldier by the arm. "What is happening?" she asked. The soldier's face was white with fear. "The Wendigo escaped. It is in the station." Yuna felt her blood turn to ice. She had read about the Wendigo of Proxima 6. It was one of the most dangerous creatures the division had ever captured. It had killed 3,000 people on a colony world before hunters finally trapped it. The creature stood 12 feet tall. It moved faster than the eye could see. It could copy human voices to trick its prey, and now it was loose on the station. Yuna ran toward the command center. Maybe she could hide there. Maybe the thick walls would keep her safe. But when she arrived, Captain Park was waiting with a group of soldiers. "Good," he said when he saw her. "You are coming with us." "What?" "Sir, I cannot. Everyone fights today. We need every body we can get." He threw a plasma rifle at her. She caught it clumsily, almost dropping it. "Stay at the back. Try not to shoot anyone on our side." Yuna wanted to argue. She wanted to run away. But the look in Captain Park's eyes told her there was no choice. She joined the group of soldiers and followed them into the dark corridors. Sergeant Lee Jisoo led their squad. He was a tall man with a scar that ran from his forehead to his chin. He had killed more monsters than anyone on the station except Captain Park. He looked at Yuna and shook his head slowly. "Stay behind me," he said. "Do not make noise. Do not run unless I tell you to run." They moved through the lower levels of the station. The lights were broken. The corridors were dark. Yuna could see bodies on the ground. Hunters who had tried to stop the creature and failed. Blood covered the walls like paint. Her hand shook so badly she could barely hold her rifle. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. Every shadow looked like death waiting to strike. The creature's voice echoed through the corridors. It sounded like a woman crying for help. Then it changed to a man begging for mercy. Then it became a child calling for its mother. "Do not listen," Sergeant Lee whispered. "It is trying to trick us. It wants us to come to it." They followed the trail of bodies deeper into the station. The air grew cold. The walls were covered in strange marks where the creature had scratched them with its claws. Yuna listened to the monster's voice. She noticed something strange. The creature was not just making random sounds. It was using patterns. It was repeating phrases it had heard before. It was learning. She wanted to say something, but she was too afraid to speak. She just followed the soldiers, gripping her rifle, trying not to scream. Then the Wendigo attacked Dot. It came from above, dropping from a hole in the ceiling. It was huge and white, like a skeleton wrapped in pale skin. Its eyes were black holes. Its mouth was full of teeth that seemed to go back forever. It moved so fast that Yuna could barely see it. The creature hit the middle of the squad like a bomb. Soldiers flew through the air. Weapons fired in all directions. Someone was screaming. Someone was dying. Sergeant Lee was thrown against the wall. His head hit the metal with a terrible sound. He fell to the ground and did not move. Yuna fell backward, landing hard on the floor. Her rifle slipped from her hands. She watched the monster tear through the soldiers like they were made of paper. Blood sprayed across her face. She could not move. She could not think. She could only watch. Then she noticed something. The Wendigo was tilting its head before each attack. It was listening. The creature hunted by sound. Without thinking, Yuna grabbed a broken communication device from a dead soldier's belt. She threw it down the corridor as hard as she could. It clattered against the metal floor. The Wendigo spun toward the sound. It lunged down the corridor, chasing the noise. Yuna stopped breathing. She moved slowly, silently, picking up her fallen rifle. Her hands were covered in blood. Her whole body was shaking. But she kept moving. She circled behind the creature. It was still focused on the communication device, trying to find the source of the sound. Its back was turned to her Dot, while Yuna raised the rifle. She had never shot a living thing before. She had barely passed her weapons training. But she remembered something from the file she had read. The Wendigo had armor everywhere except one spot. The base of its skull. She aimed at that spot. Her finger found the trigger. The creature started to turn. It had heard something. Maybe her heartbeat. Maybe the blood dripping from her clothes. It was turning toward her. Una fired. The plasma bolt hit the Wendigo exactly where she aimed. The base of its skull. The only weak spot on its entire body. The creature screamed. It was the worst sound Una had ever heard. Then it fell forward, crashing to the ground. Its body twitched once, twice, and then went still. Silence filled the corridor. Una stood there, rifle still raised, unable to believe what had happened. Sergeant Lee's voice came over the communication system. He was awake, but barely. Did the translator just kill a Class 7? Una dropped her rifle. She fell to her knees. She started to cry. She cried for the dead soldiers. She cried from the fear that still filled her body. She cried because she was alive when she should be dead. She did not feel like a hero. She felt like a scared girl who had gotten lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. She had seen what others missed. She had thought when others could only fight. She had used her mind when weapons failed. News traveled fast on Station Omega. By morning, everyone knew what had happened. The translator girl had killed a Wendigo, a Class 7 creature, one of the most dangerous beasts in the Division's history. She had killed it with a single shot. Soldiers who had ignored Una for weeks now stared at her in the corridors. Some looked at her with respect. Others looked at her with confusion. A few looked at her like she was a puzzle they could not solve. Captain Park called her to his office the next day. He sat behind his desk, studying her face like he was seeing her for the first time. "That was not luck," he said. "Tell me what you saw." Una sat in the chair across from him. Her hands were still shaking. She had not slept since the attack. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the Wendigo falling toward her. "The creature hunted by sound," she said. "I noticed it was tilting its head before each attack. It was listening for movement. When I threw the communication device, it chased the noise. That gave me time to get behind it." "And the weak spot?" "How did you know about that?" "I read the files. All the creature files in the database. The Wendigo's body is covered in natural armor except for one place at the base of its skull. The bones are thinner there." Captain Park leaned back in his chair. He was quiet for a long moment. Outside his window, stars glittered in the endless black of space. "You have been reading the creature files," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, sir. Every night. I thought if I understood the monsters, they would be less frightening." "And are they? Less frightening?" Una thought about the Wendigo's black eyes. She thought about its mouth full of endless teeth. She thought about the sound it made when it died. "No," she said honestly. "They are more frightening now. But I understand them better." Captain Park nodded slowly. He picked up a tablet from his desk and began typing. "I am changing your assignment," he said. "You will still work as a translator when we need one. But I am also making you a tactical analyst. You will study the creatures we fight. You will look for weaknesses. You will help our hunters kill more effectively." Una blinked in surprise. "Sir, I am not trained for that. I am not a soldier." "No, you are not. That is exactly why I want you doing this." He looked at her with his hard, gray eyes. "Soldiers think like soldiers. They see a monster. They shoot at it. Sometimes that works. Sometimes everyone dies. You think differently. You see patterns. You notice things. That is more valuable than 100 rifles." So Una became a tactical analyst. She spent her days in a small office surrounded by screens and files. She studied every creature in the Division's database. She read about their bodies, their behaviors, their hunting patterns, their weaknesses. She looked for connections that others had missed. Her first big success came 3 months later. The Shriekers of Kepler 442b were pack hunters that had been killing Myers for years. Every time the Division sent hunters after them, the creatures escaped. They seemed to know when humans were coming. They always disappeared before the hunters arrived. Yuna studied the reports for days. She watched videos of the Shriekers hunting. She listened to recordings of their calls. And then she understood. The Shriekers communicated through sounds that human ears could not hear. Very low sounds, below the range of normal hearing. When they sensed hunters approaching, they warned each other with these hidden calls. Yuna designed a device that would scramble these communications. It would fill the air with noise that blocked the Shrieker signals. Without their warning system, the pack could not coordinate. The hunters tested her device on their next mission. It worked perfectly. The Shriekers could not talk to each other. They ran in different directions, confused and alone. The hunters killed them all in a single afternoon. Captain Park smiled when he heard the news. It was the first time Yuna had ever seen him smile. More successes followed. The crystal lurkers could become invisible in certain types of light. Yuna calculated exactly which colors of light revealed them and designed special glasses for the hunters. The hive mothers could rebuild their bodies from a single living cell. Yuna discovered they became weak during a special molting period that happened once every 7 years. She tracked the cycles and told hunters exactly when to strike. The soldiers started calling her the Monster Whisperer. Some of them said it as a joke. But as time passed, the joke became serious. Yuna understood monsters better than anyone on the station. She could predict what they would do before they did it. Sergeant Lee Jisoo recovered from his injuries and returned to duty. He became one of Yuna's strongest supporters. He would visit her office every week to talk about creatures and strategies. "You know what makes you special?" he said one evening, sitting across from her desk. "You do not just kill them. You understand them. You get inside their heads. That is what makes you dangerous." Yuna shook her head. "I am not dangerous. I cannot even fire a rifle properly. Weapons are just tools. The real weapon is here." He tapped his head. "And yours is sharper than any blade I have ever seen." By the end of her first year, Yuna had more kills credited to her strategies than any active hunter on the station. She had never fired another shot after the Wendigo. She did not need to. Other people pulled the triggers. She just showed them where to aim. Her transfer request was finally approved. She could leave Station Omega and return to the diplomatic corps. A nice, safe job on a peaceful world. No more monsters. No more blood. No more nightmares. Captain Park called her to his office and showed her the approval letter. "You can go home," he said. "You have served your time. No one would blame you for leaving." Yuna looked at the letter. She thought about Earth. She thought about quiet offices and peaceful negotiations. She thought about never seeing another monster again. Then she thought about the hunters, who went out every day to face the darkness. She thought about the colonies that were saved because of her work. She thought about the creatures that were still out there, waiting, hungry, deadly. She pushed the letter back across the desk. "I want to stay," she said. Captain Park raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure? This job will kill you eventually." "It kills everyone." "Maybe," Yuna said. "But I can do more good here than anywhere else. I can save lives. I can help people. I cannot walk away from that." The captain was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something Yuna had never seen before. He reached across the desk and shook her hand. "Welcome to Monster Division," he said. "For real this time." Yuna smiled. For the first time since she arrived on Station Omega, she felt like she belonged. 2 years had passed since Yuna killed the Wendigo. She was no longer the scared translator who cried in her bunk at night. She was now Lieutenant Kim Yuna, the Monster Whisperer. And her name was known across every military base in the galaxy. But some monsters were beyond anything she had faced before. The transmission came at midnight. It was from a colony ship called the New Horizon. The ship was carrying 50,000 people to a new world. Families, children, people looking for a fresh start among the stars. The captain's voice filled the command center. It was shaking with terror. Something came through the hull. We do not know what it is. We cannot stop it. God help us, we cannot stop it. The video feed showed chaos. People running through corridors, screaming. Something moving in the shadows behind them. Something huge. Something wrong. A woman ran past the camera. Then something pulled her backward into the darkness. Her screams stopped suddenly. The transmission went dead. Captain Park assembled the best hunters on Station Omega. 20 soldiers, all veterans, all killers. He led them personally. This was not a normal mission. This was something worse. Yuna was on the first transport ship. She brought all her equipment, all her files, everything she might need. But deep in her heart, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Fear. The new horizon floated in space like a dead whale. Its lights were flickering. Its engines were silent. The ship was 3 kilometers long and should have been full of life. Instead, it was quiet. Too quiet. The hunters entered through an emergency airlock. They moved through the corridors with their weapons raised. Yuna stayed in the middle of the group, studying her scanner. "Where's everyone?" Sergeant Lee whispered. He was walking beside her, his rifle pointed at the darkness ahead. Yuna looked at her scanner. There were life signs on the ship. Thousands of them. But they were all concentrated in one place. "The cargo bay," she said. "All the life signs are in the cargo bay." "All 50,000 people?" "Yes." Yuna's voice was quiet. "But something is wrong. The readings are strange. They do not look quite human." They moved deeper into the ship. The corridors were empty. There were no bodies, no blood, no signs of struggle. Just empty rooms and silent hallways. It was like everyone had simply vanished. Then they reached the cargo bay doors. Yuna looked at her scanner one more time. The readings were clear now. Whatever was inside the cargo bay, it was not human. It was something else entirely. "Open it," Captain Park ordered. The doors slid apart. The smell hit them first. It was thick and sweet and wrong, like rotting flowers mixed with meat. Several soldiers gagged. One turned away, and Yuna forced herself to look. The cargo bay had been transformed. Organic material covered every surface. It was red and wet and pulsing with a strange light. It looked like the inside of a living creature. And embedded in that material were the colonists. They were still alive. Yuna could see their faces, their open mouths, their moving eyes. But their bodies were being absorbed. They were melting into the organic walls, becoming part of something larger. Something that was feeding on them slowly. And at the center of the room was the creature. It unfolded from its nest like a nightmare coming to life. It was 40 feet tall and had no fixed shape. Its body kept changing, shifting, reforming. Mouths opened and closed across its skin. Eyes blinked in random places. Arms and legs grew and disappeared. Yuna knew what it was. She had read about these things in the oldest, most classified files. It was called a devourer. Only 3 devourers had ever been seen by humans. None had ever been killed. They were rated Class 10, the highest threat level possible. A single devourer could eat an entire planet if given enough time. The creature spoke. Its voice was 1,000 voices combined. The voices of everyone it had ever eaten. Men, women, children, all speaking at once. "More meat," it said. "More food. More to become part of us." Captain Park raised his weapon. "Open fire!" 20 hunters fired at once. Plasma bolts hit the devourer from every direction. The creature did not even slow down. It absorbed the shots. Its body glowed where the plasma hit it, and then it grew larger. It was feeding on the energy. The creature struck. One arm extended across the cargo bay like a whip. It hit 3 soldiers at once. They did not even have time to scream. Their bodies were pulled into the creature's mass and absorbed. "Fall back," Captain Park shouted. "Everyone fall back." The hunters retreated. The devourer followed them, flowing across the floor like a living wave. It was faster than anything that Sci should be. It was catching up. Una did not run. She stood in the doorway of the cargo bay, watching the creature. Her mind was racing. There had to be a weakness. There was always a weakness. She remembered something from the files. All 3 devourers had appeared in colonized systems. They always attacked near planets with lots of life. They never appeared in empty space, because they could not survive in empty space. The new Horizon had been traveling between star systems. There was no planet nearby, no sun, no source of outside energy. The creature had come here to feed on the colonists because it was starving. "It is hungry," Una whispered. Then louder, "Captain, it is starving. Cut off its food supply." Captain Park looked back at her. "What are you talking about?" "The colonists. It is feeding on them. If we destroy the nest, the creature will weaken. But the colonists, they are already dead. They have been dead since the creature took them. We cannot save them, but we can kill the thing that ate them." The captain hesitated for only a moment. Then he understood. He turned to his soldiers. "Target the organic material. Destroy the nest." The hunters opened fire on the walls of the cargo bay. Plasma bolts burned through the organic tissue. The colonists screamed as the material holding them was destroyed. It was a terrible sound, but Una forced herself to ignore it. The devourer screamed too. Its 1,000 voices cried out in pain and rage. It tried to protect its nest, tried to regenerate the damaged tissue, but the hunters were too fast. They were destroying its food source faster than it could rebuild. The creature began to shrink. Its movements became slower, weaker. It was running out of energy. "Now!" Una shouted. "Kill it now." The hunters focused their fire on the creature itself. This time, the plasma burned. The devourer could no longer absorb the energy. It was too weak, too hungry. It collapsed into a shrinking mass of dying flesh. The 1,000 voices faded to hundreds, then dozens, then just a few. The creature spoke one last time. A child's voice, crying in the darkness. "Please. We are so hungry." Then it was silent. Una fell to her knees. Her whole body was shaking. Around her, soldiers were crying or vomiting or staring at nothing. They had won, but it did not feel like victory. Captain Park walked over to her. His face was pale and old. He looked at the destroyed cargo bay, at the remains of 50,000 people. "You saved us," he said. "But those colonists, they were already gone," Una said quietly. "The creature had already taken them. I just ended their suffering." It was the truth. But that did not make it easier. They returned to Station Omega as heroes. The first humans to ever kill a Class 10 creature. But Una did not celebrate. She sat alone in her quarters, staring at the wall, hearing the voices of the dying in her head. She had become a monster killer. But some monsters left scars that never healed. 3 years had passed since the Devourer. Commander Kim Yuna stood at the window of her office, looking out at the stars. She was 28 years old now. Her hair was shorter. Her eyes were harder. The scared girl who had arrived at Station Omega was gone, replaced by something stronger. The military had offered her any position she wanted after she killed the Devourer. She could command any fleet, lead any division, work on any world in the galaxy. Instead, she chose to stay at Station Omega. This was her home now. These were her people. Captain Park had retired last year. His body was too old, too broken from decades of fighting. He shook Yuna's hand before he left and told her something she would never forget. "I have killed more monsters than I can count," he said. "But you have saved more lives than I ever could. That is what matters. Not how many you kill, but how many you save." Now she was in charge. Commander Kim Yuna, leader of the Monster Suppression Division. The most dangerous job in the galaxy was now hers. Today was graduation day for the new recruits. Yuna walked to the main hall where they were waiting. There were 50 of them, sitting in rows of metal chairs. They were young and scared, and trying not to show it. Some of them were born hunters. Big, strong, built for combat. They had trained their whole lives for this moment. Others were scientists who wanted to study alien creatures. Others were engineers who would build weapons and defenses, and a few of them were obvious mistakes. A translator who had never held a weapon. An accountant who fainted at the sight of blood. A young man who had signed up to be a cook and somehow ended up here. Yuna looked at these misfits and smiled. She saw herself in them. She stood at the front of the room and waited for silence. It came quickly. Everyone knew who she was. Everyone knew what she had done. "You are probably wondering why you are here," she began. "Some of you trained for years to join this division. Some of you were assigned here by mistake. I know how that feels. I was assigned here by mistake too." The room was very quiet. The recruits were listening carefully. When I arrived at Station Omega, I was a translator. I had never fired a weapon in combat. I could not run fast or fight hard. I did not belong here. Everyone knew it. I knew it too. She paused, letting the words sink in. But I survived. And do you know why? No one spoke. Because I learned. I observed. I adapted. That is what humans do. That is what makes us the most dangerous species in the galaxy. She pressed a button and images appeared on the screen behind her. Pictures of monsters. Creatures she had helped destroy over the past 3 years. Hundreds of species. Thousands of kills. The galaxy is full of things that want to eat us. Creatures that are faster than us, stronger than us, more numerous than us. By every measure, we should be extinct. We should have been wiped out long ago. She pointed at the images. The Wendigo with its endless teeth. The Shriekers with their hidden voices. The Crystal Lurkers that could disappear. The Devourer that had eaten 50,000 people. But we are not extinct. We are still here. We are spreading across the stars. We are building cities on 1,000 worlds. And every time a monster tries to stop us, we find a way to survive. She turned off the screen and faced the recruits directly. I do not care what you were trained for. I do not care what the paperwork says. I do not care if you are a hunter or a scientist or a cook. You are here now, and I am going to teach you how to fight monsters. The young cook looked like he might faint. Yuna smiled at him. Some of you will be frontline hunters. You will face creatures in direct combat. It is the most dangerous job, and some of you will die. The hunters sat up straighter, proud and ready. Some of you will be analysts, like I was. You will study the monsters, learn their weaknesses, find ways to kill them that no one else can see. The scientist nodded, understanding. And some of you will discover talents you never knew you had. The translator might become a hunter. The cook might save the entire station. You never know what you can do until you are tested. She walked among the recruits, looking at each of their faces. She saw fear in many of them. But she also saw determination, hope, the willingness to try. Here is the truth about monsters. They are not special. They are not magical. They are just animals. Very dangerous animals, but animals all the same. They have bodies that can be hurt. They have minds that can be tricked. They have weaknesses that can be found. She stopped at the front of the room. Humans survived for thousands of years on a dangerous planet full of predators. We killed lions with wooden spears. We hunted whales with tiny boats. We drove wolves and bears into extinction with nothing but our brains and our hands. Her voice grew stronger. The monsters out there think they are the apex predators. They think they are at the top of the food chain. But they are wrong. We are. Humans are the most successful hunters in the history of the galaxy. And we did not get here by being stronger or faster. We got here by being smarter. She looked at the recruits one final time. I am not going to lie to you. This job is dangerous. Many of you will be hurt. Some of you will die. I have lost friends, soldiers, people I cared about. This work takes everything from you. She paused. But it also gives you something back. Purpose. Meaning. The knowledge that you are standing between humanity and extinction. Every monster you kill is a colony that survives. Every creature you stop is a family that gets to live. We are the wall between light and darkness. We are the reason humans can sleep safely at night. Far below, in the containment levels, something howled. It was a deep, terrible sound that echoed through the station. Some of the recruits jumped in fear. Yuna did not move. She had heard that sound 1,000 times. It did not scare her anymore. That is your enemy, she said calmly. Get used to the sound. You will be hearing it a lot. She walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back. Training begins tomorrow at 6 in the morning. Do not be late. And remember what I told you. You are not just soldiers. You are not just hunters. You are human beings. And that makes you the most dangerous creatures in the universe. She left the room. Behind her, the recruits sat in stunned silence. Then one of them started clapping. Then another. Then all of them, applauding the woman who had started as a mistake and become a legend. Years later, people would ask Yuna about her career. They would ask how a translator became the greatest monster hunter in human history. She always gave the same answer. I was not the strongest. I was not the fastest. I was not the bravest. But I was willing to learn. I was willing to adapt. I was willing to change. She would smile then, the same cold smile that made monsters afraid. That is the human secret. We are not the best at anything, but we can become the best at everything. We just need the chance to prove it. The clerical error that sent Kim Yuna to Monster Division was never corrected. Somewhere, a computer had made a mistake that changed the course of history. A single wrong number in a database. A name in the wrong column. Some people called it luck. Some called it fate. Yuna called it opportunity, because in the end, it did not matter how you got to where you were. It only mattered what you did when you arrived. And Kim Yuna had done something remarkable. She had taken her greatest weakness and turned it into her greatest strength. She had looked at the darkness between the stars and refused to be afraid. The monsters had learned to fear humans, and it all started with a scared young translator who was assigned to the wrong division. The end.